good to be alive. You could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted, shoot the moon and reach for Mars. You know you could. Times are changing everywhere. Do we dream and do we dare? It's up to you. The door is open wide. Feel the rhythm of today. Learn the part and join the play. The world is here. Let's take it for a ride. You could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly high than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted, shoot the moon and reach for Mars. You know you could. Larger, larger than, bigger, bigger than, living hopes and dreams. Every boy and girl, higher, higher than, brighter, brighter than, all you wanted. You know, you could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You can have all you ever wanted. Hopes and dreams, every boy. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted. You know you could.
I'll just have a cup of coffee, then I'll go. Thought that
Good morning, and here I am. Now, if you notice on the side there where the chat should be, for some reason it's not working today and I can't get it to work. So I can leave it like that, where if it starts working, we'll see it, or I can leave it like that, where if it starts working, no, the black, we wouldn't see it. In the white, we would see it if it starts working. It's up to you guys, but here's the thing. I can read the chat. I can see anything that you type. I can see it on this other screen. So, you know, maybe this chat on screen. The reason I put it on screen, I was asked this, why do you put it on screen? Because some people watch it on TV, and in doing so, they can't see the chat. There's no way on the TV version to see the chat. So they could watch it on TV and then have their phone open and look at the chat. Buenos dias. Thanks for the golf content. Anytime. So anyway, that's why I put the chat on the screen for people that watch it on TV, which is about, what was the percent? I think it's like 8% of the people that watch it on TV. Yeah, the golf content. I struggled with that for 2 weeks. I had a hard time because I have never been there. And I had no idea what to do and how to do it. And the thing is, whenever I do a video, I really want to be sure that it's accurate. And all I had was information on the internet. And you know how I feel about that. It's very often it's crap information. So I really struggled with it. Probably added an extra week. And when I was done with it, I was really disappointed. I didn't like that video at all. And that's really the root of why I didn't like it. Now, the sports one that I did after, I was fine with that. I was back to normal with that. I've been there, so I felt a lot more comfortable with it. And hold on, my Sorrento coffee. And it's hot. Give it a few minutes, and it'll be nasty. Now, don't forget, I got t-shirts. Speaking of which, as you guys know, I probably talk about it too much. Now and then, I try to keep some money coming in for maintaining the channel, equipment, upgrades, software, various things like that. Because my budget's fine to live. I just can't afford the extra stuff. So, like this microphone. So, I have the Patreon. I have different methods of people contributing to the channel. And the reason I have so many is people ask me, oh, well, I got the Patreon. Well, I don't want to do that, but, do you have a GoFundMe page? So I opened a GoFundMe page, and can you do it on your Google Pay app? Yeah, I could do that. So that's why I have all these different ones. But here's the deal. Patreon has been around for, I don't know, half a dozen years. And its sole purpose was for YouTubers that needed to raise money, particularly after YouTube started stealing all the advertising revenue, and you couldn't really make anything off YouTube anymore unless you were, getting millions of hits. So he saw a niche there, and he started that website, and it's been pretty good. And he didn't take an outrageous, bite out of the contributions, and he grew. But here's the thing: two things happened at the end of June or beginning of July that really has me upset, really bothers me, and I'm going to drop Patreon. Now that's going to be a hard thing because that's been a source of steady income. I mean, not a lot, $100, $150 at most a month, but it's been steady for the past 3 years. And in some cases, it made all the difference in the world, particularly when I was having some, financial problems. So it's been great to be there like that. But I can't do it because, here are the two things. Number one thing is they announced to us that it's very likely they're going to start. As a matter of fact, they said yes, but I don't know how they determine. Any contributor to that channel from now on is going to be charged tax on top of whatever they contribute. So if somebody contributes $10 a month, it's going to be $10 plus a tax. And that really pisses me off because nobody else does it. So if nobody else does it, then it must not be necessary. And if it's not necessary, why are they doing it? What's going on with it? So that really bothers me. If somebody is kind enough, and Patreon, it's all they do is take contributions for various channels. So there are no other reasons. So if somebody is kind enough to contribute to someone's channel, I don't understand what is this tax about. So that's number one. That really bothered me. But number two was they sent out an announcement at the end of June that they had just contributed with all of our funds so we could feel good about it. Somewhere, I believe it was like $500,000 to the Marxist Black Lives Matter group. And I don't want to be any part of contributing to groups that are working to destroy America. Now, I'm not talking about the people of Black Lives Matter. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the actual group. Go to their website. You can read their mission statement. You can see who the founders are. You can see what it's all about. It is a absolutely Marxist organization with the intent of tearing down the United States. They come right out and say it. Go take a look yourself. I don't want to be any contribution. I'm living in Colombia, and I love being in Colombia, but I love the United States, and I have no ill feeling about the United States at all. And even though my world is better where I am because of climate, because of all the things I've told you about, I still think the U.S. is probably the best country in the world. And for me to contribute to the downfall of society in the United States it's just too far. So that steady income that I've enjoyed for 3 years, be it not a lot, but just being there and being able to count on it, it's meant the world to me. But to me, this is even more important. I cannot contribute to this kind of situation. So I'm closing it down. I put a notice up. If you're a Patreon donor, take a look. You'll see the notice there. I have created something alternative. It's very safe. It's through the Swipe network, which is part of Capital One. So it's absolutely encrypted, secured. It's not some fly-by-night thing. And there is a link in the description. You'll find it in the notice on Patreon. So if you're of a mind, feel free. The quantities now match up with the member version here on YouTube. So everything is matched, and everything will be able to be done in one place. If someone is getting a Skype call, or they're doing a one-time contribution, all of those things can be done on one simple, secure page. So it was, I would say it was a tough decision, but it really wasn't. It took me all of about 15 seconds to decide I was done with them. All I had to do was verify the things that they were saying. And, so yeah, they're going to start taxing, and they're taking the money. If they got that kind of money to throw around, they should be taking, less out of it. But enough of that. So the videos I did this last week was the golf video and the sports video. As I said, I liked the sports video. I thought that was, it was pretty good, pretty informative, and I made sure that I put in information about cycling, because that is a question I'm asked a lot. I'm asked that a lot. So, so I had to make sure that was in there. Now, that was a single club with organized events. But, when you go to Salento, you'll see all the time cyclers up and down those roads because it's gorgeous, and it's a favorite place for them to go. So, like I said, you can go on your own, but I would recommend, if you come here, go ahead and join the club. You're going to make friends, which is really help. And so, when you move to a place new and you don't, few to no people, even if you're a loner, a hermit like me, it's really good to have people you can reach out to answer questions, to help you through something. And it doesn't matter if let's say you're fluent in Spanish. It doesn't matter, because you're going to come to a place where everything is done differently. And you need some guidance through that. And so that's it's another good way to meet people. If you were a cyclist, then look up that Club Millennium. Yeah. I wish Lauren would just stick to Gran Colombia. That is the name, isn't it? I'm not sure what you mean. This is Gran Colombia, so don't quite follow that. But if it bothers you that I brought up that topic, it's because Patreon is part of Gran Colombia channel, and I think it's real important that if I'm closing it down and there's people that use it, that they understand the reasons why. Now, you may or may not agree with my reasons, but I'm telling you why. And that has nothing to do with politics. That has to do with my decision about money that's contributed to the channel. If you want to donate to groups like that, do it directly. And if you don't want to donate to groups like that, then it's not fair that your money is taken and sent somewhere where you didn't want to donate it. So that's not going into politics. That's just being real. So I'm sorry if you can't get down with that, then you're watching the wrong channel. I'm not here to talk about politics, but if something affects viewers of this channel, I'm going to be honest about it. I'm not going to, sit here and make up some story. So that's that. Enough with that. My personal channel, where I can talk about politics, that I started a couple weeks ago, and I haven't really done much, but I did do one that I thought was pretty interesting, and I liked it, and it wasn't anything radical or out there conspiracy. I was actually talking about the Chinese Cultural Revolution. It was only about 6 minutes long, and it had clips from that at the time. And what I found interesting is that, okay, I put it up there, and quite a few people watched it and shared it. I got a message from Facebook telling me that they don't abide by social commentary. And I don't understand what that was about, because there was nothing about the video that talked about, I don't know. I just don't get it. I guess you can't, mention history either. But, as much as we may not want to talk about, some politics, it intrudes in your life sometimes. And this morning, the things I'm talking about, they're things that have intruded in my life, even here in Colombia. Okay, so I want to show you something, and some of you, thank you, HD Chillin', thank you. Yes, I can do that. It'll take me a couple weeks to set it up, but I know somebody actually I know several people living that lifestyle. And give me a little time and I'll set that up. Another question that comes up a lot, and I throw bits and pieces in now and then, it's about food deliveries to the home. Now, I don't mean the groceries, I mean restaurants. So I'm not going to talk long on it, but I'll show you something I posted up on the Grand Colombia Facebook page. And let me see here. So we can switch over. Oh, you like my new room? Okay, this was a delivery I got, and it was pretty yummy. Well, just go ahead and watch this little clip here. Let's see what you get for $6 delivered to your door. Delivery included. All right, you get a little sushi and some salad and little shrimps, pot stickers, and some kind of soy chicken and rice. It also came with a Pepsi, but I'm not really much for Pepsi, so I'll end up giving that away. But that's what you get for $6 at Sarki. It's a chain throughout Colombia. I meant to say teriyaki chicken. It was quite good. I'm not a fan of most chicken because usually it's dried out and flavorless, but that was really good. Now, what I want to say about the home delivery is that was, as I said, it worked out $5.89 or something, included a Coca-Cola, which in pesos it's probably like 70 cents. So say $5 for the lunch. Now, what I'm asked is it expensive to do food home deliveries as compared to Ecuador? And this was by somebody who had lived in Cuenca. And the reason he asked that is you can get food deliveries in Cuenca, Ecuador, but they're god-awful expensive. It is not unusual to drop a $20 bill to get a dinner with food delivery. It's just a lot. And here you can get, well, I would say you can get as cheap as $2.50 maybe, including delivery. The places that do the lunches, they'll deliver. Most of them will deliver. And I've got one on the first floor of my building. It's Chocolate Cafe, but they do lunches. It's a bakery. And you can call on the house phone and they'll bring it right up to your door. Well, not during quarantine, but normally they'll bring it right up, and there's no delivery charge. But there's one right across the street that's actually really good, and they'll bring it up. All of them will bring it to you as long as you're within a reasonable area. So you can get the lunch delivered for about $2.50, somewhere in there. But the typical range for delivery, if you like fast food, say hamburger, fries, and a lemonade, that's going to be probably around $4, $3-4. And the expensive end, so if you order from a Patadija, a barbecue place, and you order up a steak, it's going to run you about $8 to have it delivered. And usually it'll be with fries or home fries or something on that end. Very often it'll have a drink with it, like a lemonade. You may or may not. So the difference of home delivery for restaurants to the difference between Cuenca, Ecuador, and here, it's like night and day. The cost of the food is cheaper to begin with. It's way better quality, and the delivery is so much less money. So I mean, it's usually not even a dollar. It's like 50 cents, 70 cents for delivery. So you can't beat it. It's a pretty good deal. Those kind of things come in handy. All right, let me see what. I was in Cali in March, took the bus to Armenia and then on to Salento. I thought the area around the bus terminal in Armenia looked pretty sketchy, correct? No. It's actually not. It's fine. It's the old part of town. So if you see buildings that are kind of run down, that it may feel sketchy, but it's fine there. I've been there, I can't tell, I don't know how many times I've been there. But it's just an old part of town, and people own their own property, their own personal property, and if they don't have the money to tear down and rebuild something newer, they're just going to make do with what they have, and it's just how it is. Rob, Armenia has certain industrial areas like all cities on the alternate route from the airport in the south going north into town. But the main route was under construction, is almost done. That's true too. Exiting north looked very nice. The north part of the city is new. Well, actually going from the center of town to the north of town, it's new for two reasons. One is in '99 they had that big once every 4,000 year earthquake, and it destroyed that part of town. And two, this Armenia has been growing so much every year. It continues to grow and expand. So you have the rebuilt portion, and then the other half of the north, it's just been growing out that way. Where I live right now, this was country when I was here 20 years ago. This wasn't part of the city of Armenia. I mean, it may have been on a map, but there was nothing here but, a road and trees. So, yeah, it's beautiful because it's all relatively new. And when you go south of the center, where the bus terminal is, that part of town wasn't destroyed, and it's all old structures. It's old buildings. And buildings, as time goes on, kind of runs down. It's old construction techniques. So you see a lot of, like you see in Ecuador, you'll see a lot of just block, without, you know, good looking facades. And you go north, you don't see that, but in that part of town, that's the way things used to be done. It's still done like that in Ecuador. It's not like that here anymore, but when you're going back 30, 40, 50, 100 years, that's what you're going to see. You know, it's kind of like, you know, if they built log cabins, you know, it's like it would be unusual to see them, but if it's an old building, then maybe that's what you're going to see. So, two things. I agree with you. It looks sketchy just because of that situation, but it's actually not sketchy. There are some areas of town, like every place, where you don't really want to go. Armenia, not so much, but it does have its places. But that actually isn't one of them. That place is fine. I've got a couple news items, and we're going to get to some Q&A. Talking about Colombia, not politics, or maybe Colombian politics. So they recently did a study, just came out into the news, and it's funny because people who live here are probably going to look at this and go, yeah, we already know that, but that's how most studies seem to go. They have determined that of all the road accidents, 90% of them are involved with a motorcycle. And I've said on this channel that you don't really see accidents, but if you do, it's usually caused or by a motorcycle. Because while the cars drive reasonable, I'm talking about this part of the world. I'm not talking about Medellin, because in Medellin it's a different story. But here, as far as the way cars drive here pretty much by the rules. Motorcycles are constantly weaving in and out of traffic. They pull in front of cars that you may or may not be able to stop in time. It's just crazy. If you've got a 2-lane road, the motorcycles will treat it like it's a 5-lane road. You know, they'll go on the outside, they'll go in a lane, they'll go in the middle, they'll go in the lane, they'll go on the other side. It's motorcycles are insane, and I personally think it's a problem, and I'm a bike rider my entire life. It's just stupidity. I'm not saying that you have to obey every single traffic law all the time. Maybe that's not, you know, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is they take it to such an extreme. It's just stupidity. And so anyway, the study has now verified that. But here's what I'm thinking. Because they did a study of something that they already know, they wanted to have secure information because they're probably planning on cracking down on motorcycles. And to do that, it's always good to point to something. Say, see, here's the reason why. So that's my suspicion, that probably in the next year or two, you're going to see the police really crack down on motorcycles. You might even see some new regulations about motorcycles. Somebody months ago said, "Do you think they'll ever ban them because it's such a problem?" No, they're not going to ban them. But they might ban them from certain areas. They might stop them from going to the center of downtowns where traffic is particularly congested. You know, so that's a possibility. So I'm telling you about it because I think that's an interesting topic, and I think that it's something to think about if you are going to move here. I don't see it as a negative whether you ride bike or not. I've been asked, you know, why don't you have a motorcycle? They're a lot cheaper than a car. Well, you're right, but I don't need anything in and around town. I need something between the towns. The sole reason is for this channel. Around town, I have no need for it. You got buses, you got taxis, you can walk. I never found a need for one. And if it's going to be dangerous, it's going to be here in town. So no, I'll stay away from the motorcycles. I wish I had one to just kind of go out and cruise around the countryside, but then again, I don't have a whole lot of time for that. So, all right. And the other topic that, and then we'll get to the questions. feel free to start posting up now if you have questions, is corruption. Corruption in Colombia has been an issue for a long time, and for recent history, they've had a pretty good handle on corruption as compared to what it once was. Now, having said that, it seems like there may be a reawakening of corruption, because you're constantly seeing stories all around Colombia about this person's corrupt, that person's corrupt, there's under investigation, somebody's been arrested. So now there is a theory that it's nefarious, that it's a way to purge certain people from positions. I actually don't think that's the case. I think the corruption explanation is probably the correct one. But here in Condillo, big news item. There are 3 projects that were funded with government money. And I'm not familiar with these, but 2 of them were parks and 1 is a cultural center. And during the investigation that's been going on since this quarantine hit, it seems like, they have discovered that the money for those projects has been spent. It has been paid. Hello, Charles. Has been paid out to the contractors, but nothing's taken place. And we're talking big chunks of money, like millions. So the money was there. It was earmarked to start this project. Actually, I think in 2 of the cases, there was enough money to actually complete the project. The money's gone. They know where it went. It went off to the contractors that put in the bids on the job, but the contractors haven't done anything. Now, yeah, there's no more Patreon, Charles. Let's do an instant replay. So I don't know. We'll see how it shakes out. I hate to think that, you know, there's that level of corruption going on in Condillo, because Condillo has been a pretty clean spot. On the other hand, you know, if they're uncovering it, then it still is. So, okay, that's all the news I have today. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Sorry, again, the chat isn't working on the screen. Let me get rid of that. I don't like that big white blob. But I can read everything that you're putting up. Yeah, Lauren is just blabbing away, Charles. That's exactly it. I think I had a couple interesting things here. You know, a couple. That lunch looked pretty good, right? You know, that sarku is actually a chain throughout Colombia. When I was in Cali one time to stay over, most times I go to Cali, I have to stay overnight. And I've been there, I think I counted out one time a couple dozen times in Cali. And I had to stay overnight one time, and I ordered up a delivery dinner, and it was from the Sarco, and I said, wow, that's really good. And then I go to Manizales, and they had Sarku. And then I come to Armenia, and I had never looked, but there you got Sarku. So it's a chain that's at least in Cali and Armenia and Manizales. My guess is it's probably in every city Armenia size and bigger. And it is quite good. Can you explain again how contributions through Capital One will work? It won't be through Capital One directly. Capital One uses, I said swipe, I meant Stripe. If you're in your Capital One bank account online, you look and see, you can make a payment to a utility, for example, and it doesn't go through Capital One itself. It goes from that bank, but it uses financial processor called Stripe. And you'll see it right on their webpage. And it says you have to sign up for Stripe. And then from that point on, you can use Capital One to pay off different things. Well, there's a company, I think they're, as I recall, I think they're based in England actually, but they have a payment interface like that, and their basis is Stripe, the same that Capital One uses. And so you go to that page, and I could set it up, and I could choose, you know, things there, and you click on it, and the payment, it's encrypted, and it goes through that Stripe interface. So, you know, it was one of the big reasons I selected that. It's because I knew it was going to be 100% secure. Is it true that Google Pay is the best method for receiving? Actually, it is. It's absolutely the best because there's no middleman. It's instantaneous. There's no fee taken. Now, this new one I set up, it only has the 2% processing fee, like if it were a credit card. So that's pretty good. Patreon was, as I recall, was about 10%. YouTube has this varying thing. It can go from 10 to, it can go up to 30%. GoFundMe is relatively good. I think it's about 5%. So except for the direct one, Google Pay, all of these take, you know, kind of a bite. But, you know, it's, you have to have a way to transfer. Well, this one, I didn't know it existed, but when this happened with Patreon, I started looking, and I saw a whole bunch of them, but I didn't recognize a lot of the gateways that they were using. And then I got to this one, and it was not only really simple to set up, which is nice, but it was using Stripe. You know, Stripe I know about, so it's like, woohoo, this is awesome. So I was able to just go ahead and connect it right to my Stripe account, which connected it right to my bank. So that, you know, that's pretty good. Does Patreon take a fee? Yes, they do, as I just mentioned. Well, I'm dropping Patreon over the next couple weeks. I want to give enough time for everybody can see it, but I don't want to give it enough time to where it takes another payment out from the contributors. So no one will be charged anything from Patreon ever again from this point on. You choose on GFM. Not sure what that. Oh, GoFundMe. GoFundMe's good. The one that I just set up is pretty awesome. You know, so if you're worried about online credit card like that, this one I set up is pretty awesome. It's not only, well, it's highly encrypted, and they keep no well, enough said about that. That's a boring topic. Any other question? Anything about Colombia? I mean, I gotta cover this channel stuff because it's people's money and they deserve to know what's going on with it. And but I don't want to beat it to death either. It's a pretty boring topic. It's kind of inside baseball. To members that have signed up as members, and that new payment thing, that'll also. It's also set up on that same method. To members, I'm getting ready to do our first live chat for members only. So please send me off a message what days and times are best for you. I'm trying to put something together, you know, for everybody. This is something we're going to do once a month. And for the tier 2, we're actually going to be doing live. Well, I say Skype, but it's actually a different program. But we're going to be doing live video chats where I'll see you, you'll see me. We can talk to each other. And there'll be a group of us. And we can do that up until, I think it's 26 people, maybe. So that might get a little confusing. But we'll be doing our first one of that probably in a couple weeks. So Okay, I was reading below. What is the one you were saying? Charles, I'll send you off something. Any predictions on when international travel will resume? Yeah, they've said that the flights are going to resume September 1st. And they've stuck with that, even though they keep extending our quarantine, because now it's July 15th. I believe it's the 7th time they've extended the quarantine for us here. I'm really going stir crazy. I've been in this apartment since the beginning of February, with only a handful of times when I've gone out for the reasons I've talked about before. I'm about going crazy. But September 1st is the time that they're still saying. I don't know if that'll be extended. Personally, I don't see any reason for it. You know, I can understand the distancing. I can understand the washing. I can even understand the mask, knowing that in most cases it's not going to do anything. But there are some cases, like if somebody is actually sick, you don't want them infecting people. Now, if somebody is asymptomatic, they don't have a virus that you can catch from. That seems to get misconstrued for some reason. If they're asymptomatic, they're not contagious. But if somebody is actually sick, then for them wearing a mask, it is protecting other people. That's true. So you don't know who's, okay, I'm not sick, I could go out, not wear a mask, wouldn't make any difference unless I ran into somebody who was sick and he coughs, you know, within 5 or 6 feet, 7 feet of me, then, you know, I could catch that virus. Of course, I've already had it, so, you know, supposedly you probably can't get it again. I don't know, that doesn't make sense. You get the flu, you can get the flu again, but all of that aside, they just keep extending this thing, and the quarantine, I think, does more harm than good. But I will say that I was out twice this week. Yeah, twice in 1 week. And it was gratifying to see a lot of places are reopening, and I can see that they're reopening beyond the quarantine level that's permissible. It's like everybody's saying, all right, yeah, we hear you, we've done our share, and now we're going to get back to living. The cafeteria below me, nope, not below me, below me, that I mentioned, Chocolate Cafe, they had a counter in front of the door. You couldn't go in, but you could walk up and you could order things. Well, now I went by and it was lunchtime, and there was a lot of people in there. Now there was spaces between them. They weren't on top of each other, but sitting at a table, you might see 2 or 3 people spaced out, but they were still all there, and so they're within like 3 feet of each other. And I haven't heard anything where that's the way it's supposed to be, but then walking down through the town, I'm seeing that all over the place. And we have no spikes. Since I reported to you the last time, which I don't think I brought it up last week, I think it was 2 weeks ago, we had 1 new case in the last 2 weeks. And we haven't had any deaths. We haven't had any deaths here in, I don't know, 2 months. And so it was also in the news, Salento, not far from here, has removed a lot of their quarantine. So they've opened up beyond what we're supposed to be here. I keep hearing a worse one was coming. Yeah. It's not, you know, how's it going to be worse than what it is? Because it's not the virus this financial, I mean, you have people starving to death. I'd rather have a virus. But anyway, the claim by the medical folks, the asymptomatic people are contagious with this particular virus. Yeah, you know, I see that some places, but I see doctors all over the place saying that's not true. It's like everything else. You know, what did they say for the first couple months? You know, the experts, CDC, Fauci, came out and said, don't wear a mask. It'll do more harm than good. They said that for 2 months. So then they start saying wear a mask, and then should we make it mandatory? Well, which is it? The thing is, they're making this shit up. I mean, pardon the French, but there is no definitive answer on a lot of these things. The only reason I talk about masks like I know something is when I was in the Marine Corps, they have something called NBC training, nuclear, biological, and chemical. And we had several weeks about masks and how they affect biological, for example, and the kind of coverings and all of those things related to a mask. Now, that doesn't make me an expert, but there was nothing political in what they were teaching us. They were teaching us information so that we knew how to stay alive or how to keep other people alive, and we would know what would not be effective. And so I take that as, being from 1972, I think I took that. From that time period, information hasn't changed on these masks. They're still using the N95, for example, that was being used back then. Surgical masks. There's been some changes, but they're essentially the same thing. They're still the 3-ply. So I believe what I believe based on information that I find reliable. And, what I see out there is all these experts constantly contradicting themselves. And that's what gives rise to all of these endless, we'll say, conspiracy theories. Well, people are going to fill in the gaps. And if you can't give some definitive information, so in my mind, I just keep operating off, what I know. I will say every time I go out, I wear a mask because that's the rules here. And just like, I won't speed in a car, I follow the rules, even though I hate them. But what I did do is I found a mask that is perforated enough where I can actually breathe and without my glasses fogging up. Before, the kind of masks that I had, I actually would get dizzy. I would walk and breathe and I would get dizzy. Kind of like if you breathe into a paper bag, you're gonna get dizzy. And that's not good. You don't want to be out walking around getting dizzy. You can get headaches. So with this other mask, and they're very popular here now, they just kind of sprung out all at once. They've got a little cloth filtery thing inside, but it's got perforations on the outer layer. And I can breathe, and it's also got a little more space. It's kind of coned out a little. And so I'm fulfilling the requirement, knowing that's still not going to prevent, if there's a virus in the atmosphere, I'm still going to get it with that mask. But I'm not dizzy. I can go out and walk around. Yes, I recall NBC training in the Marine Corps boot camp. Oh, well, we didn't have it in boot camp. We had a separate, well, I won't say we didn't have it in boot camp. You go through that gas mask thing, and there's some training around that. It's more on how to operate a gas mask, how to seal it. They talked about it. But after that, there was an actual school that you could go to, and I ended up going to a lot of different schools. It's like I was in aviation, and when you had downtime, rather than just kind of sit around spit polishing, they would send you off to a school. So I went to the NBC school for that, which I don't recall how long the whole thing was. I'm thinking it might have been about 3 weeks, which is a lot for the Marine Corps because their training is always very intensive. But it was a pretty involved program. There was the concern was all three: nuclear, biological, and chemical. Because back in the late 60s, early 70s, those things were a real concern. In World War III, it was a real concern. And when I was a kid, it was the duck and cover, in the 50s. And then you had the 60s with, the missile crisis. So people don't understand now that are, in their 20s, they don't understand the the ominous threat that was always in the background as we were growing up. And so the NBC training, they took it very seriously, and they wanted you to know what was going to work and what wasn't going to do anything. And as I said, mask is a big part of that. And they assume that, you know, if something happens, you may not have a mask. So they talk about what you can do and what's going to be pointless. All right, I should have $3,000 to $3,500 a month when I retire. I presume that's plenty of most. Baby, $3,500 in Armenia, and you're going to be living like a rich man. Actually, if I had $3,500 here in Armenia, I could be living in the finest apartment. That's, you're only going to need half of that. The rest of it's going to be wasted. So that money, I would suggest you keep it in the U.S. in a savings account and just kind of keep it there, you know, for a rainy day, and just budget yourself maybe $2,000. You can get by here fine on $1,500. So, you know, give or take what the exchange rate is. But you're going to be living large, and I would bank some of that money. Don't waste it. I ran into that because when I first went to Ecuador, I had $4,000 a month. And in Cuenca, Ecuador, that's not living large, but it's out. When I started the channel, it allowed me to travel a lot. I've got videos all over Ecuador on this channel. And that dwindles over time, and then I actually had a crash that went on for a number of months where I barely had enough to get by. It was well under $1,000 a month. It was a tough time. Of course, I'm out of that. I'm back. I'm not to $4,000 a month. I'm not even to $1,500. But I'm comfortable now with what I have. And what I'm saying is, go with what makes you comfortable, maybe a little more, and bank the rest, because you never know what's going to happen. I thought I was set. And being home, why don't you catch it? I did catch it. I was sick for 2 weeks. They're trying to do their best, specifically regardless of how COVID knowledge, past experience. I agree. But what I'm saying is, when they come out and they make announcements, it's, you know, they keep saying, you know, go by the science, and that they're guessing. There may be educated guesses, but the fact that they contradict themselves kind of tells you that, you know, they don't really know. And when you talk to other doctors, you get different stories. So, you know, I'm just saying, take all that with a grain of salt. But I do advise that whatever the rules are, you follow the rules. I mean, it's not going to kill you. It doesn't kill me to go out and wear a mask. If I had my choice here after I've already been sick and I know that I'm not ill, I probably wouldn't have worn a mask. But they force me, so I'll wear one. Well, they force me and they say you have to wear one. Plus, you can't go into a grocery store or a bank or something like that without it. Oh, I had to go to the bank to pay my rent. That was one of the reasons I went out. So I go into the bank. First, the door is locked and you have to wait. And they let people in and out by a group. So, but they're spaced out. So they open a door. I'm the first one. I get to the doorway. I can't pass the threshold. First thing they do is take my temperature. Beep. Started here, then went to here. And then check my cedula, make sure that here it's every other day you can go into a place. So they look at my cedula, and so that was okay. Then you go ahead and go in. When I'm standing in line to get to the cashier, there's little spots on the floor for you to stand in, and there is this, it must have cost a fortune, this gorgeous big poster about COVID, about the rules for COVID. You know, and you know, these are in the branches all over Colombia, so not only their income is getting hurt, but they're having to spend money. They have hand cleaner where you fill out your deposit slips. They have hand cleaner at the cashiers right there, so you can take the alcohol-based stuff and do your hands if you want. So it wasn't like that a couple months ago, back when I got sick. Where, as you mentioned once, you did not like the mail address services. You did not say why. Why did you dislike them? I dislike them for a few reasons. They're expensive. Okay, so you pay $19 a month. That's the typical charge. And you get an address. Mine was in Grand something, Michigan. It was in Michigan. So you get an address. And some letters come in. If you just want to read what the letters are, they'll open them and scan them. That's cool. And you get a certain number of those free. If you go over that number, like 10 or whatever, then you get a charge per one. Well, I don't really get junk mail. And when you first move, you might for a few months, but after that, it kind of disappears. It goes away. So then you don't need it anyway. But if you try to do packages through it, their charge for processing those packages is outrageous. If you say, okay, just send me a box with everything that's accumulated for the last couple months and put it all in there and send me the box, that could cost you $50. It just doesn't make sense. I have no need for it. I think it's a waste of time and money. There has to be somebody that you know that you can use as a permanent address. It's not like they're going to really have to do much of anything. It can be a good friend. It could be a relative. Just use their permanent address. Then you got something for the bank. But I can tell you that almost everything is online these days. There's no need to have those services anymore. I've been down here for 4.5 years, and I've had no need for it. So I'm not looking for alternatives for it because I don't need it. So why spend $20+ a month for nothing? You just send it to me. I'll at least talk your ear off. That's why. Lori, you better make Edward O'Lee your new best friend. Pension plus some savings. Pension will be $2,600 is more than you're going to need. I would say hang on to $2,000. You can live large when you first get here because you're going to want to go out a lot and see a lot of things, like any place that you go new. And just bank the rest. Keep it for Grand Rapids. That was it. And just keep it for a rainy day. It's not going to hurt you if it builds up to tens of thousands of dollars over a couple years. And maybe by the time you've been here for a year or two and you're really secure in where you want to live, you'll already have enough money to just buy the place. Just a thought. I'm not big on buying. You can rent so cheap here, and there's a real advantage of being able to be in a place and then go to a different place for a while. Although, I got this place and I loved it so much, so when the time came, I renewed it. So I'm here. Well, actually, we're coming up this fall. It'll be 2 years here, and I'll have to decide whether to renew it again or not. But so far, I've got no reason not to. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better spot. And while the apartment was really small when I first got here, it's just because I've lived in such huge places. I mean, when I lived in Cuenca, that was a 4-bedroom house. And when I lived in Giron, that was a 6-bedroom house, just me. So, I was used to a lot of space. So I come here and I'm in this little 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment that's very small. I still wish it was a little bit bigger, like in the kitchen, but not enough to make me want to pack up and move. So we'll never buy again. Yeah, it's I feel the same way. Of course, I can't afford it now. That was originally plans that I had. I can't afford it now, but before I got to the point where I could no longer afford it, I had already come to the conclusion that it would make no sense. It just makes no sense. When you can rent in the best part of town, you know, for $250 a month, why buy? Why buy? Okay, do we have any other questions? Gold coins. No gold coins in my future. Anything else? I just looked at confirmed cases and deaths in Colombia as a whole. It's definitely spiked up dramatically. So even if minimal travel, yeah, it's pretty much all in Bogota, and there's very specific reasons, and there's areas where that's the case. Bogota it's almost all the numbers you see are related to Bogota. I skipped your question. What was your question? Didn't mean to skip it. Let me see if I can go back. Did Armenia cancel the Pride March last month due to COVID? I know they had it in 2019. I didn't hear anything about it. Usually you would see things on Facebook. It's kind of a big, well, it's a big thing everywhere. My guess is it was skipped, but I can't tell you that for sure. There were 2 protests within the past 2 weeks where people were out protesting 3 different reasons. It was financial. Sorry, I didn't mean to skip your question. I just didn't see it. Yeah, I got it. I would guess, because I didn't see anything, that it probably was canceled. That would be my guess. Hello from beautiful Calarca, Colombia. No, Calara. Do you mean Calarca or Calara? I don't know Calara. Calara. Tell me. I know there's like a 10-second delay here. Calarca is a fascinating little town. It's almost attached to Armenia. It's really close. You could walk it. It's probably a mile and a half, maybe 2 miles. It's an older style town. You know, it wasn't touched by an earthquake, and they don't have a big explosion of building like they have here in Armenia. Calara. I don't know where Calara is. I'll have to look that up. I actually never heard of it. And I'm always studying the map looking for my next adventure. Calara outside of Bogota. Well, I could almost guess. There's 2 places that I don't really pay a lot of attention to. One is around Bogota, and the other is around the Amazon. I hate mosquitoes. I have no desire to go to the Amazon whatsoever. I doubt you will ever see that on this channel. I'm just not interested in it. I felt the same way in Ecuador. I never went to the Amazon. And Bogota, I don't know. Bogota, I don't hate it like, I don't dislike being there like I dislike being in Cali. But it's just it's a big city. It's a huge city. What are they, 30 some million people that live there? It's a huge, sprawling city. And I'm just not a fan of that. I mean, I go if I have to go. I go if I've been there for the airport a few times. I've had to go to the embassy a couple times, 2-3 times I had to go to the embassy in my life, in my past life also. I had to go to the embassy. So if I don't have to go there, I'm really not interested in going there. So I don't really look at the things around it. So that makes sense. We have a small ghost village here. Oh, you mean people just aren't living there anymore? Little ghost town. All right, I think we've used up our time. I appreciate you guys hanging in there with me, and hopefully you understand why I made the announcement I did. It wasn't to get into any kind of politics. It's because it's directly related to the channel with some viewers, and they need to know that information. So, and I put a post up, but there's only one person that actually, people are busy. They don't really pay attention to, a lot of posts. Besides, a lot of people are just inundated by, hey, you got a message, I mean, I'm guilty of it. That's why I say email me, because eventually I always see the email. But a lot of times messages, they'll just be so overwhelming, I just delete the batch of them. It's all I can do to keep up with emails. So I assume that a lot of people didn't know, but they may be watching here now or later. So that's why it was important that I get that information out. So that's it, Charles. I will send you the information of that page if anybody else wants to know. LaurenDavidLau@gmail.com. In the not the comment section, the information section below the video, pretty much everything you can want to know. Also, on the website, grandcolumbia.live, if you go to the page that says contributions, right at the very top there, it's got a link for this new page. It's not set up because I was still setting it up, and I haven't had it. This week I'll go and it'll open up into a page for you. But you can click on that link and it'll go there also. How is the president? President of Colombia? I don't know. He's alive and healthy. He's getting ripped on by the opposition. They never rest. They're constantly saying horrible things about him, that he's everything, he's racist, and everything that happens in the United States against any Republican, you'll see that with this guy. Now, he's not a Republican, but he's not a left person. He's actually kind of middle of the road. But they do the same things here. Politics are basically the same. So they're just constantly, he's an idiot, he's corrupt, he's blah, 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 blah. I actually try not to pay a lot of attention to it because it's just such an old story. I've been hearing it my whole life, ever since, basically ever since Reagan is when all that stuff kind of really started hard. Okay, so that's it. Thank you guys. There was a bunch of you here today. I appreciate it, and I'll see you next week. If you have any suggestions on what I can do while I'm trapped in my apartment, send them on. I'll do what I can. I'm glad I was able to get the golf one out. Hope I explained everything. I guess female companionship has been a little dry since February. That's a topic I don't want to talk about on public channel here. So I'll see you guys next time around. Ciao.